Peace and welcome. Welcome to a new week, right? And we are here all under this Three of Spades week. And in this video, I am going to go through the Three of Spades life path, give you some insights to this energy, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So yes, the Three of Spades week started yesterday, Monday, October 14th, and goes until Sunday, October 19th. And so what is the threes and the Three of Spades at that? Well, we're talking about a spade, so this can be a focus on our work, our health, our spirituality. It kind of encompasses all the suits, so it can be emotions, it can be money, it can be resources, it can be values, it can be feelings, etc. Now, when we look at the plate, which I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better, and we'll follow this path of the Three of Spades. Where does it sit on the plate? That in itself will give us a lot of insight to its energy and its house that it sits in. When we look at it from the life spread, which this is what this is, the life spread, this is where we can find all 52 cards and their life path, all the cards that they have in their spread. Now, the Three of Spades is right here, and it sits in this row, which this is Saturn. So this is the Saturn row, and it sits here, and this is Jupiter. So it's a Saturn and Jupiter energy. Now, what do we know about Saturn? Saturn is the work, the responsibility, the due diligence, the putting in the effort to build something for the long haul. Saturn is longevity. Saturn is time. Saturn has a sense of really that responsibility. But then we have Jupiter, which is more expansive, more, even travel, higher knowledge, opportunity, blessings, etc., rewards, right? So you have a very interesting energy when you're looking at Saturn and Jupiter. And on top of it, threes are ruled by Jupiter. They're abundant energy. They want to give us more variety, more options, more opportunities, more different avenues, more fun, because the high side of the threes is that creative, playful energy. Now, the Three of Spades has a lot of different layers, right? So one of the things, like they do call it the artist card. So this is a very good week to get into your inner painter, your inner sculptor, designer, whatever your artistic little outlet is. This would be a good week to really play around with that, tap into it, and finding healthy ways to kind of express yourself, move the energy, right? Now, the low side of the threes, especially this one, can be hypochondria, worry, indecisiveness, anxiety, not being able to make decisions, overworking, overwhelming, and it can be one of the strongest cards of stress. So one of the best things I can tell you for this week is find ways to move that energy, because if not, and you let it fester, it can very much turn into stress, which then can affect your health. So just be mindful of that. I always tell my clients, like, threes just need to move. They need an outlet, a healthy outlet, a creative outlet, an expressive outlet, so that that energy doesn't become stuck, right? Because it is such a overwhelming energy of like just needing an outlet, needing whether it's again like painting, designing, playing, creativity. Just find those healthy ways to move that energy. Now, let's jump into its life path, and I'll go more into the understanding of this energy. It's Mercury card for life. Well, actually, before I start there, the card behind it, the card that pushes it, a supporting energy, some call it a moon card, is another three, the Three of Clubs. So that's what's pushing it. That's what's supporting it. And so it is very much supported in that creative endeavors, expressing itself. This is the writer's card, a very strong card of communication. So again, finding healthy outlets for the thoughts, the words, the information that may be coming would be beneficial. The card that sits above it is the Ten of Diamonds. So that's like an energy that you look up to, right? And or a crown energy, they call it too, a crowning card. And that's the Ten of Diamonds. That's a very blessed energy, a lot of expansion, a lot of opportunity to increase your wealth. And that's where you can find a lot of Three of Spades successful in creative endeavors, art, business, even, because they are crowned by that Ten of Diamonds. So look to expand, look to increase, right? Now, its first card in its spread is the Nine of Hearts. This is their Mercury card. So the Three of Spades can be very compassionate, very giving, because the high side of that Nine of Hearts is universal love, agape love. Like they can give great advice. They can be great counselors with that Nine of Hearts. But having a 9 in Mercury, you can't be attached to certain things. This sometimes can show up as relationship issues. They may be a little like they misjudge somebody at times because of that Nine of Hearts, because they want to give all this love, but they got to make sure that, what are they giving it with strings? Are they giving it with attachments, expectations, conditions? Because that's universal love. Now, this also needs like boundaries. They have to learn how to say no and not overgive and overshare. That can definitely show up with that Three of Spades. So just be mindful of that of this week. Watch for any disappointment. Try to let it roll because it's in Mercury. Usually any disappointment won't last long because Mercury doesn't have a lot of longevity. But it's very important to implement boundaries, say no and mean it. Don't like backpedal on that, because that's something you'll see with the threes. They'll do this and they'll back up and be like, maybe not. So stand firm on that. But also very humanitarian, very giving, very loving. I feel like they can like channel animals and even almost like probably prefer communicating with animals sometimes over people, but that's another story. But yeah, because the Nine of Hearts can represent that pet and that sensitiveness to the animals. Anyways, their Venus card is the Seven of Clubs. So even more like relationships, watch the expectations, watch the attachments, watch the fears. This also makes it where they need to communicate in relationships. This is a card of gossip. It's a card of talking a lot. So it helps them to kind of get it out, right? But they also have to be mindful of their plans can change. Their relationships can kind of go through that swing energy that sevens bring, faith or fear, abundance or lack. But one of the biggest things, especially since they have these 9s and 7s right off the rip, is, not look outside of themselves, trust themselves, see themselves as the source, right? Sometimes 3s will look outside or look for different ways to get insight when they really have everything they needed within them. And with the 7 of Clubs in Venus, there can be some, highs and lows with relationships. Watch the attachments. Your plans can suddenly change. Go with the flow. Don't get too stuck. Just go, allow. Look, okay, so let's say you had plans and all of a sudden they didn't happen. Well, 3s, one of the best things about them is, option number 2, option number 3. There's always another option. So don't get too stuck on what coulda, shoulda, woulda, and just allow the next thing to come and not be worried about what may not have happened, right? Now, their Mars card is a 5 of Diamonds. So with the 5 of Diamonds being in Mars, again, being flexible, being fluid, going with the flow. Because, right off the rip, all these odd numbers and them being an odd number can present, especially these are their personal planets, a little bit of a challenge, right? So again, not being attached, riding the waves, going with the flow. Now the 5 of Diamonds in Mars can make them great in business, great in sales, money in, money out, money spent, money made. They're flowing with it. They're not attached. Now this can make them a little impulsive, a little impatient, having a 5 in Mars, but things change when 5s show up. Suddenly, even, so it's asking you to be able to kind of be flexible, be fluid, adapt, pivot, roll with the punches. Again, especially you got to be careful of the attachments and expectations. You just got to go with it, right? 5 of Diamonds can be very good for business, money, what works, what doesn't. And again, just kind of being able to ride the current with that 5 in Mars. But because it's Mars, for them, you just got to watch the impatience, the hurriness, the restlessness. That can affect even relationships because they can be a little scattered. Now, their Jupiter card is the Queen of Spades. This gives them a lot of power. And this is the card of spiritual self-mastery. So it does really make a difference when they have more control, right? Of the mind, the emotions, everything. And that Queen of Spades in Jupiter is like, take back your power. It never was outside of you. It's been within you the whole time. Trust yourself, master yourself, and everything will, I don't want to say be easier, but really you realize you're the one driving the ship here, right? And so, but this also makes them very powerful healers, whether it's through, massage, body work, art. Even art can be very healing and therapeutic. They can be very, capable of uplifting others through those practices as well. This makes them a master healer, but it comes through healing themselves, especially of any stress, worry, taking their health very seriously, taking their health into their hands. This gives them a lot of power. Good real estate, business. This can be a little intense though, so you got to watch that queen energy on the low side. Can kind of be like off with your head type of energy. But this is also to be of service. So the more that they're for community, for service, for nurturing through that wisdom and experience that the Queen of Spades has, they can have an immense amount of success. Now, their Saturn card is the Jack of Clubs. So, it's like uplifting the mindset, right? Thinking outside the box, tapping really into that creative energy that the Jack of Clubs brings. But really, they have to be careful because with the Jack of Clubs, they can either be on the peasant side of the mind or the royal side of the mind. They choose, right? So this week, as we're all moving through, if those thoughts start to kind of like spiral or get to the low side, you've got to do that work of like uplifting, speak life. Remember, they have that 7 of Clubs too in Venus, the power of the tongue, the power of the words. What are we speaking? What are we saying? So, and with the Jack of Clubs too, it is very much about like thinking outside the box, using the mind and the words and the communication to not just uplift yourself, but uplifting others as well. And really tapping into the creative way that the Jack of Clubs, the gift of gab, use again, your words, expression, all of that kind of falls under that umbrella of the Jack of Clubs. Now, their Uranus card is the 9 of Diamonds. So yes, having this 5 of Diamonds and 9 of Diamonds, things can suddenly change, shift, and with the 9 of Diamonds, it's going to ask you to let go, to release, to allow. Again, it's like things flowing to you, things flowing away from you. Either way, you don't try to control it, stop it, or don't worry about it, right? That 9 of Diamonds can also be money coming to you, money leaving you suddenly, out of the blue, unexpectedly. This also can be very good for like long-term investments. Just be responsible because again, with those 9s, they can go to the overboard, just like the 7s to the extreme. So again, being responsible, having boundaries, saying no, but this also makes them big givers. Like let's say, 3 of Spades will clean out their closet and give you half the stuff because they don't need it anymore. There's no space for it because they to be careful of like too much clutter. Too much stuff can probably stress them out. They need probably less because they can naturally be an overwhelming energy. So maybe this week is a good week to like clean out the closet, get rid of things, donate it, give it away, bless others with the stuff that you haven't touched in months, right? That's a big part of that 9 of Diamonds. But also, again, just no expectations. If you're going to give from the overflow, not with strings. You're giving from that generous space of, I know I always, get it back in one way, shape, or form, but it's not specific. You just give because it's coming from that overflow. Now, their Neptune card is the 7 of Spades. So they have a 7 in Venus and a 7 in Neptune. So, and 7s are ruled by that Neptunian energy. So that having faith, this can also show up as like vague worries and, creating things that aren't even there, stressing yourself out. Remember, 7s are faith or fear. But the most important thing is about staying in the moment, staying in the now, staying present, not worrying about tomorrow. We aren't there yet. And not going back to yesterday. We can't. You only have the now. Have faith that everything is working out as it should. And most importantly, like I always say with these 7s and these 3s, like you have everything inside of you. You don't have to look outside of you. And that even goes back to their Queen of Spades and Jupiter, spiritual self-mastery. Mastering yourself is only going to give you more faith in yourself, your work, your talent, your creativeness, everything. Also, pay attention this week while traveling. Sometimes those 7 of Spades can show up as accidents because we're distracted. We'll be driving and we're physically driving, but our mind is way over here, worried about this and worried about that. So are you really driving? Or you may be physically driving, but you're so distracted with your thoughts and everything else, or your worries or fears, whatever, that you are susceptible to accidents because you're not paying attention. So in your travels, pay attention this week, every day, actually. And also, again, with that 7 of Spades, if something doesn't work out, let it go. Like have faith that you're being realigned, or, you weren't supposed to go on that trip. If it doesn't happen, don't force it, right? Have faith. Now, their Pluto card is the Two of Clubs. Now, having a Two of Clubs in Pluto, one, partnerships, conversations, communications, connections are important. But anytime there's a two in Pluto, we got to watch for codependency, fears, control, not listening only just to respond, but are we really listening? We're really hearing what other people are saying. Sometimes when there's a two in Pluto, we can put other people before us or try to control and dominate others, because that's sometimes that Pluto power can come in. There can be, transformations through relationships when there's twos in Pluto, but this is more about the communications, the words, the discussions. You got to watch for the arguing. And if you find that you're arguing or debating or popping off, check yourself. Like, am I in a space of fear? Where is this coming from? Like, be very mindful of the words this week with that Two of Clubs and Pluto. Speak, to understand, right? Not to just respond, but to really like take in the information. And then the result card to that Two of Clubs is the King of Clubs. So maybe even having to master the communications, master the words, the thoughts, etc. Because this is a very powerful card, right? It's the mastermind. It's the master of knowledge, right? And this can give them a lot of mental power. They just got to watch the arguing and the debating here. But this also can bring like powerful connections, opportunities to work with others. And then with the King of Clubs, there can be a lot of success. But there's also maturity with those kings, right? And threes can be sometimes a little playfulness, childlike, immature, but they mature through the conversations, the thoughts, the words. And with this King of Clubs, it is about that full power, that full authority, mastery, confidence, and maturity. Now, their cosmic lesson here, let me move me. That cosmic lesson for them is the Jack of Diamonds. So it is, again, like, because remember, their Saturn card is also a Jack. And usually, your cosmic lesson is like a higher octave of your Saturn card. So there's Jack. So it has to be like, don't take the peasant road, take the royal road, right? You got to see yourself as royalty. You got to see yourself as powerful. You got to believe it. You got to know it. You got to walk it. And with the Jack of Diamonds as their cosmic lesson, again, great with sales, great with marketing, innovative, creative in business. Just got to be careful of like running from responsibility. That's a very thing with the Jacks. We tend to be like, can we play? I'd rather play than be an adult and have to be responsible. But you can see for the Three of Spades, it would behoove them to operate from the higher side of those Jacks of responsibility, not kind of doing things half-assed or cutting corners. That can be the low side of those Jacks, but really initiate the higher side of the values, the resources, business, creativity, innovative, again, thinking outside the box. Very beneficial for that Three of Spades. The cosmic moon is the Four of Hearts. They love, the family, the emotional security. But again, because they can be like a hypochondria, a worrier, a stressor, they have to have that emotional security from within, right? Like feeling loved, feeling solid, feeling stable is so important for them with those emotions. And I feel like the Three of Spades, like, really love that family connection, their that home. Do they always get that? I think that depends, but I think there's also that need to, feel that emotional stability, especially since that's their cosmic moon. But remember, the other moon card is a three, so there can be that uncertainty in their emotions, but their cosmic moon is a Four of Hearts, a great card of like that stability, satisfaction, contentment, etc. But like home, they may feel more comfortable in home, more comfortable in secure relationships with that Four of Hearts. Now, their transformation card is a Four of Diamonds. And what's interesting about this is three of the four threes actually do transform into fours. The Three of Spades, the Three of Clubs, and the Three of Diamonds all transform into fours. So when I really sat with that, I was like, wow. Because one thing with threes, and we all may experience this week, especially the Three of Spades, overworking, taking on too many projects, too much this, too much that. We're divided. We're trying to juggle a bunch. So follow through, complete the task, and then move on to the 17 other ones you may have going on. But Finishing it gives satisfaction, completion, gives contentment, right? And the Four of Diamonds is a strong card of financial protection, right? Financial security, getting clear though, but it comes through getting clear about what's important to you, what's valuable to you, right? That's the thing. Being disciplined is key for those fours, but a three can be very undisciplined because they can be very uncertain. They're trying to do too much, and then this can be very like, this can then like kind of kick in what I call like the writer's block or procrastination. Then you're running around like a chicken with no head trying to finish everything in such a short amount of time, and then what happens? You stress yourself out. So don't do that. Again, pick a task, finish it, and then move on to the other. It will help to calm a lot of that I gotta get everything done in 5 minutes type of energy. Don't you're really causing yourself unnecessary stress. So let's talk about their karma cards. So their supporting karma card is a Jack of Diamonds. So they are very creative in business. They can probably run multiple businesses. They can even go from, okay, I've done this business for so long, now I'm going to transform it, do a different business. Remember, there's always options with those threes. And because this Jack of Diamonds is a supporting card, great at sales, great at innovative business wise, great at creativity, great at thinking outside the box and having the know-how on how to make a business successful. But then their challenging karma card is a Six of Diamonds, so they have to be responsible, right? And since they have these two Jacks in Saturn and Cosmic Lesson, you can't cut corners. You can't be dishonest. The Six of Diamonds will drag you. That's the card of financial responsibility. You get back what you put out. So if you're half-assing things or not completing things, you're just going to have to keep, you're going to have, it's almost like you're going to be chasing to kind of catch up. But if you do it right the first time, you're really honoring that Six of Diamonds, like being fair, being responsible, and also trust in the timing of things, right? That's a big thing with sixes. It's not about the rush. It's about the slow progress. Your effort is what gets rewarded with those sixes. So just put forth a little bit of effort and watch how this week actually brings a lot of satisfaction and contentment and peace and clarity. And again, try not to worry. This can definitely be a stressful energy, a divided energy, like you're at a crossroads. Just know, like, again, if that door shuts, there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more other doors you can walk through. Don't get too caught up on the one no. Try again, right? That's the beauty of the threes. There's always this option, that option. You don't got to get too stuck on one thing. And again, try not to worry. Try not to overthink. Watch the attachments and expectations. Just go with the flow, right? It can be a very, overwhelming energy, but we have the power. And when you master from within, it won't matter what's happening on the outside. It's going to matter what's going on inside. Don't make yourself sick this week in the stress and the anxiety. Try to tune out maybe some of the things that are playing out and really just focus on your tasks, your work. And again, like, follow through. Don't try to take on so much, then you just shut down and you don't do anything. One thing at a time and complete it. I promise it'll bring that contentment. It'll bring that satisfaction. It'll bring that success that the Four of Diamonds will definitely give you. But it's also about becoming very clear about where you're going, why you're going there, and then building off of that, because that's a big thing for those fours. So enjoy this very creative, artistic, expressive, and have some fun, because the threes are like kids, kind of like the Jacks. They want to play, they want to create. So if you have to, like, go blow bubbles, go do sidewalk chalk, bake a cake, do cartwheels, sit in the sun, try to find healthy ways to relax, to move the energy. Sometimes it's just shut everything down, turn the music up, and shake your ass. You know what I mean? To move the body, because that spade will need to move this energy, because remember, it covers all of the suits. So, we can get a little stressed in our emotions, or stressed in our money, however, but move the energy so you don't get stuck. That's going to be key. So with that, enjoy this week, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.